So I chose the book of Genesis, chapter 1, as my creation myth to analyze and recite. And so, very importantly, this myth is a myth of my own religion, so that will probably affect my analysis. But I still do believe that a good, proper analysis of how this myth affects the culture of the modern day can still be conducted. So, the book of Genesis is a fascinating text, and it is a text that is still not worshipped, but is a focal point of two major sects of religion in Judaism and in Christianity. And this encompasses billions of people worldwide, which I feel like is fairly well known. These texts have created what I believe is the modern culture of nearly the entirety of the West, stemming from Europe, the United States, the Americas, Oceania, like in Australia. And in so many of these countries, the book of Genesis is the beginning of the religion that has created these states and the cultures that they bring. And I believe that a few key details within the text can bring how we view culture today. And so the beginning is that there is an all-powerful God, a singular God who created this, meaning our religion is based on monotheism, which is very much unlike a vast majority of the stories we have read about between Hesiod and Ovid. They have multiple polytheistic religions, or even the religions of the Native Americans or the Norse gods, all of them having multiple gods. In this case, there is a singular God. But on the more of a cultural side, I think a very important line is within Genesis, God creates both male and female. Simultaneously, same line. And now I think them being created together is essential because later on in Genesis, between the story of Adam and Eve, it differentiates itself. But in chapter 1, it is very clear that God created men and women. And especially in the modern West, that's very important because it is a focus point of the way that feminism has grown, but how men and women are equal, and how men and women are equal in the eyes of the Lord, and as well as how they should be within our culture and in society, and the Equal Rights Acts, and everything to bring women's suffrage into existence. And it could also be found in the book of Genesis. Another major portion of the culture is the term domain, which is used in Genesis when God is speaking to humanity and blessing them, saying, I've created this beautiful earth for you. It is all your domain. And so domain, means control and sovereignty over the earth. So earth is humanity's. And which, especially in the West, the way we view earth in using its resources to assist our society, to grow our culture, is something that is very fundamental the way the United States operates, as well as so much of the West, is through let's take in all these resources and so we can produce so much more. And it differs from other cultures which may have much more religious interaction with nature. Christianity and Judaism, from what I understand, don't have as innate of a relationship. Additionally, the word domain being used here says that humanity has domain or sovereignty over something. And in the West, that is a lot of our independence, the stories of our framers in the United States creating independence and freedom that we now know, but also the rights to property. And this is my space, my home. This is my independence, my items. And these values of I can be found here as God is giving the blessing to our culture to have domain over XYZ, whatever it is. Whether it's my phone I'm speaking into now, my computer, or even the knowledge that we may know and how our copyright laws function. All of this can almost be derived from the book of Genesis saying you have domain. Humanity has domain over everything. which obviously then is subservient to God, but in this case, there is domain and control over so much of what is the earth. Now, next, I want to kind of focus on some of the norms that this myth brings up, in which, pardon me, one of these is Sunday, which is our weekends, and in this myth is the day God rests. But that could also be viewed, as Chick-fil-A is closed on Sundays, it's also the day of Sabbath for so many Christians, and it's the day that they go, I'm going to spend time with my family and rest. I'm not going to work. Now, granted, that is starting to change a lot more in these last few decades, but there's still a semblance of, it's the weekend. I want to relax. I want to put my feet up, binge watch the new Netflix show, go out there and enjoy the outdoors, go hiking, hang out with my friends and family. And we do that on the weekend. We take a break from work, or at least hopefully take a break from work and enjoy our time. And so furthermore, why I think this story is being retold and retold is as Christianity spreads and the glories of God and Christ are traveling, the book of Genesis is part of that religion. And for me reading it, I read a lot of the book of Genesis straight off the Holy See's website, or the Vatican's. And it just being a religious text for billions almost makes it ubiquitous with the rest of society. And then lastly, just the structure of the way the book of Genesis is told, I thought was very interesting. So I've never actually read it through. I've always heard stories written in mass and read to me, but never focused the way it's structured. And it has the peripatetic structure, the repetition, the rhythm that is so similar to so many of the other myths we have read this semester. And so many of the lines it would go back to, and it was evening in the morning, and it would go down to the next day. It would say the day it was, and it was very clear breaking up of the story. Additionally, it would use the word "and" a lot, and God did this, and this, and he did this. And it was very clear, short sentences, and that almost had an oral tradition, even though the book of Genesis was written down. But all in all, I found this creation myth extremely inspiring and something deeply personal to me. And I hope this analysis would meet the standards, and I look forward to the rest of the semester. Thank you so much for watching.